Hi, I work at the Seed Conservation Centre, which is in the top floor of the Goodman building in the Botanic Gardens, and I work with my colleague Dan Duval, who is in charge of the seed collections. And I'm just going to say right now, when I talk about we, I really mean Dan, because I'm talking a lot about his collections that he's made. So the purpose of the Seed Centre is to collect seed from the rare and threatened species, as Peter's just given statistics on, to safeguard them against extinction in the freezers that we have. As part of that process, we always do a lot of testing of viability and testing of germination methods. There's a lot of dormancy through the native seeds that is a fascinating study area of investigation, but we also do some propagation of plants for revegetation. And so we do, as just been shown, have multiple provenance for some species. We have over 2,500 species collected, and yeah, we've got just over 70% of the threatened flora. So. And this is usually the basis of my seed bank talks, so more about the germination and the collections. But today I'm going to talk, because it's a botany symposium, I'm going to talk more about taking specimens from the field. So our work depends heavily on the herbarium because we need to know where to find these threatened plants. So we're using all the records, we're using specimens from the herbarium to know what we're looking for, and the herbarium then houses our collections and databases are records. So, and the taxonomists tell us that we've collected the right things. So, yeah. So we estimate that we've been over 300 field trips in the last 13 years, and that's with various people, including some staff from the herbarium, and that we have lodged about 10,000 plant specimens all in all, if you count up what's in everybody's books that's been out on the field trips. And this is a plot that I call Dan's dots. So we've plotted his collections from the AVH, so the lat-long coordination. So there's a few more to go in. There's more in the APY lands. But you can see we've collected from across the state, from very diverse habitats throughout the state. Plenty of collections in Kangaroo Island. So a lot of our collections have got seeds and fruits on them because we're collecting at the time of seed collection. And because we spend a lot of time looking down the microscope at seeds, we've really noticed there's so much diversity within the seeds, sometimes equal to what you can see in the adult plants, and we can recognise a lot of species just by looking at the seed alone. So we're thinking about the significance of our herbarium collections and how we think we have contributed to the knowledge base of the flora of South Australia in several ways, and I'll just give some quick examples of all of these. We have recognised some undescribed taxa, rediscovered some historic species, resolved some taxonomic ambiguities, or they've been resolved through our seed banking program, found a lot of species that haven't previously been recorded in South Australia, also extended the range of a number of species, new populations, and provided some ecological data that wasn't there before. So this is my first example of recognition of new taxa through seed banking. This is some Tephrosia seed. Where's the button? This is Tephrosia sphaerospora, which was the original collection. Then another collection came in and we had a look at the seed and immediately thought it didn't look right. So this is from Multana. So the guys went back and had a look and actually found the plant when it was in flower and realised there were quite a few differences. It had a pink flower, it had a longer, more glabrous pod and had more upright habit. So that's now been got a phrase name, Balkanuna Creek, and we've got seeds banked from both of these species. So another quick example is the Gunniopsis, septifraga, and this other Gunniopsis species, which has got some different morphology in the flower, but you can clearly see from the seeds that something's not right, and yeah, this one's, I think, still undescribed. And this slide just shows a few others that have been undescribed or been described now, but have been collected through the seed banking program. So rediscovery of species from historic collections. This beautiful picture is a place called Bitter Well, and so there's often not a lot to go on. The guys had a record from Clearland, 1948, near Bitter Well, near Kingunya, and it was they were looking for a Swainsona, of which they only had a dried bit of twig in a pod. So they found the well. This is Bitter Well, which was some kilometres off the track. And after some searching, they found the Swainsona, and it was only in 2010, after very heavy rains, that it popped up. So this shows the pod. There was distinctive venation on the pod, so they could recognise the plant. And so we've now got collections from over 100 plants of that beautiful Swainsona. And here's some other examples of some plants that have been sort of rediscovered. And this one's Scleranthus diander is only one specimen in the herbarium from Dan, and it's from a place called Dead Man's Swamp. So maybe no one else made it out, I don't know. Down the southeast. This is a story, Taxonomic Ambiguities. So this is the Swainsona Mariana, and we wanted this for the seed bank, and so they made repeated visits out to the Riverland looking for this Swainsona, and coming back, and everything they came back with was dated as Montanus or a different Swainsona. And I thought, what are we getting wrong? We're looking at this specimen, we're trying to find it. So it ended up going through all the specimens, and actually none of the actual specimens were Mariana. So it was taken out of the census. And then later Robin Barker came up with an old type specimen for Swainsona mauricii, which was a synonym of Mariana, and that was shown to be Mariana. And that was from Balcanuna Creek. Bulkamata. That was from the floodplains of Bulkamata. So the guys went back out there and they found the Mariana, so now it got back in the census. But it's only found from around there. But they found a few populations, and that was in association with Bush Heritage Australia. New species records for South Australia. So these are just species that are elsewhere in Australia, but they haven't been recorded in South Australia before. This is an example of Valleja hispida. So they were looking for a rare Valleja near Mount Fink, and they collected this Valleja, and they knew it wasn't what they were looking for because it had 4 valves instead of 2, and it was a yellow colour instead of a pink colour. And in the end, through some process anyway, someone went through the whole flora of Australia, key and ID'd it as Valleja hispida. So this is, that's its usual habitat, and now we've got a record here. And these are other new species to South Australia that have been collected through the seed banking program. Range extensions. So this is this Stylidium iniquipedalum. So it's was previously only recorded right up near the border, and then they found a population here in Ingamar Station. And often hear Dan and Denzel talk about this, these freshwater lakes on red sand dunes that were fringed with rare Stylidiums, fringed with rare Drosseras, with Cyprus nervulosus and all sorts of rare things there. And they said it was just beautiful. It's fed from the watershed of the breakaways, and it looks more like, it's unusual habitat for South Australia. I haven't been there myself. I'd love to go if it's still like that. And just briefly increasing the number of population records, this Androculva multiloba was only known from one roadside population near Cow, and through the program it's now been discovered in Middleback Conservation Park. So it's a new record, but it's also doubled the number of populations that we knew about, and from 100 plants it's now over 1,000 plants, and it's now in the reserve. We now know it's in the reserve system. So these records are quite significant. And Oleria sulfuricosa, there was only one known extant population of that near Avenue, and now that's been found, was found in a coastal swamp on private property in quite a different habitat. It's more low-lying and it was flowering at different times of year, but they've since found other population, including in Big Heath, that's right, Big Heath Conservation. So that's also been found in the reserve system now. And my last slide is showing increasing the knowledge of species habitat niche. This is an example of Phlegmatospermum richardsii. So there were previously only 2 records with not a lot of information about it on the Nullarbor Plains, but it was located and we now have quite a bit of information about it. It grows specifically on the south-facing low dunes that are covered in microphytic crust. And these sorts of notes are really important for people who are actually going out and searching for plants and looking for new populations. They're also really important to ecologists in general, but also seed biologists, because these environments can really give us cues to what influences germination. And it also shows us when the species are actively growing, like this cruciferase is active in winter like they all are. But so I just think that's an important contribution. So I'd like to thank many people that have been involved in the field work over the last 13 years, and also thank, we have some really good steady volunteers that come and help us in the lab sort out our seeds and clean them and test the viability and germinate them. And so if anybody wants to look at seed pictures, we have a website where we've got all our seed photos up there. We've got a really nice microscope that we take the images, and we've also loaded our germination data and information about collecting seed and how to clean them and other bits and pieces on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
I was ahead of time.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to go over.
We've got time for one question. Anybody got a question about seeds? Yes?
It's in your collecting strategy, is there an attempt to sample and conserve genetic variation within the different species?
There is. We do try and have our ideal collection has over 10,000 seeds and sampled from 50 plants. We also try to get provenance, so that if there's disjunct populations, we've got all the populations represented. In the real world with rare plants, there's often not 50 plants, and we can only take 10% of the seed, so we're limited in that way. But we're also limited a little bit because the funding often wants to tick off new species, and they don't want to actually go back and fund provenance. So we're really pushing now, for our funding to get that to really, really round out the collections now. Yeah.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Thank you.